Hi, everyone. I am Bianca Rodriguez, Senior Global Affairs Analyst for CNN, and I am thrilled to be chatting today with Lieutenant Colonel Alexander Vindman and Governor Arnold Schwarzenegger for the release of Lieutenant Colonel Vindman's new book, Here Right Matters, An American Story. You may, of course, remember Alexander Vindman from being the center of a firestorm for his decision to report the infamous phone call that led to the impeachment of then President Trump, the first impeachment for President Trump. Aside from that infamous moment in time, Here Right Matters, Vindman details his incredible story of his childhood as an immigrant raised by a father who fled the Soviet Union in pursuit of a better life for his children. He is joined by Arnold Schwarzenegger, who is known all around the globe for his many accomplishments. Where to even begin? Let's start with world champion bodybuilder, Hollywood action hero, successful businessman, environmentalist, philanthropist, best-selling author, and California's 38th governor. Let's not forget that. Before we begin, I would like to thank all of the bookstores around the country who have joined to bring you this event today. They are Third Place Books, Gibson's Bookstore, Brookline Booksmith, Novel Memphis, Acapella Books, R.J. Julia, Bookhampton, and Anderson's Bookshop. I have to say, Governor, Lieutenant Colonel Vindman, I'm going to call you Alex. You said that was okay. I was thrilled to get this invitation to moderate this conversation today. It's an honor. And I wondered initially, why me? What brought us together? And of course, I remember our immigrant background. I, too, came from the former Soviet Union at the age of 18 months in 1980 with my parents, a very similar story to that of yours, Lieutenant Colonel, which is why I think we were drawn together and why I reached out to you as early as I did. And obviously, Governor, in my household, in the Golodriga household, you were always an immigrant dream story here in this country. My father says, only in America. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Right.
You were that person for us, and you were that success story. So I want to thank you for including me in this conversation today. And begin with you, Alex. How did you and the governor connect?
Well, that was, I think for one thing, I guess, I always dreamt of kind of meeting the governor. He was an icon, action movie hero, all sorts of wonderful things that he's managed to accomplish. But we came together because we were like-minded in our patriotism, love of this country, and desire to, frankly, make this country stronger. After January 6th, we both, I think, respectively looked around and asked the question, what can we do to defend this nation? And the governor made this wonderful video with his Conan the Barbarian sword, which I'm sure is somewhere close at hand in case he needs to defend his household. And I also, my initial instinct was to get right out to the Capitol and do a counter protest. And I kind of suppressed that military instinct to get to the fight, which is a good idea because that probably wouldn't help the situation. And instead, I thought, what can we do to brush back against this hate, this division? And I started with my Renewed Democracy Initiative, a non-governmental organization. I started a kind of a small movement called "What Does Democracy Mean to Me?" #MyDemocracy. I made a video. We had a bunch of folks kind of join in that, and based on the fact that we were working in the same space, when I went out to LA in March, I said, "Hey, Governor, I'm in the area. I'm open to meeting with you. And of course, the governor jumped at the opportunity to meet me, and he invited me to the house, and we had cigars for 2.5 hours."
What better way to form a relationship with the governor than that? And Governor, I know for you, I'm sure many people reach out to you hoping to get your advice, hoping to spend some time with you. You have a very busy schedule. What was it about Alex's story? And was it perhaps even those opening statements during his testimony in the impeachment trial when he talked about his immigrant background and why Here Right Matters and why his father shouldn't worry about him telling the truth and doing what's right in America? Did that sort of conjure up any emotions in you?
Well, let me just tell you that, first of all, it's great to be part of this book promotion. And because I love when someone goes out and sells. Because when you have a book coming out, or if you have a movie coming out, or if you have a new idea policy-wise coming out, or an environmental issue, whatever it is, you got to go out and let the people know, because otherwise you can have the best product in the world, but if people don't know, you have nothing. And so I'm very happy that Alex is out there and is promoting his book, because I think millions of people are going to be interested in wanting this book and reading about democracy and about his work and the kind of dangerous situation that he went through. It's a fascinating book. I was able to read a glimpse, read some of it, and I tell you, it is absolutely admirable. And of course, I became aware of Alex during the testimony when I watched it every night, and I saw of what a great job he has done. And it was just really extraordinary to see someone that is an immigrant himself to be so into protecting the democracy of America. I mean, we have this extraordinary democracy here, but it needs democracy, as they always say, is not a bystander sport. You have to be actively participating in that. And that's exactly what Alex did. He did a heroic move. He didn't think at this time about what is best for his career. He didn't think about how can he work his way up in his job and all of this stuff. I mean, he took the risk that he would lose the job, and he did, as a matter of fact. But for him, party line didn't matter. His job didn't matter. The only thing that really mattered was to keep this democracy strong. And I think that he was very successful in doing that. He became a hero overnight with his testimony that he did, and he became my hero. And that's why I wanted to, meet him, talk to him, and find out about what kind of a person is this that has really, the balls to do that. Because you have to understand, when you're in politics, like I have been for 7 years as governor, you get to know the politicians. And there's one thing that Alex has that most of the politicians do not have, and that is to not worry about his job. Because most politicians worry about getting reelected. They would do anything and everything that you can think of to get reelected, and not to think about democracy. They're party hacks. They just think about, how can they protect their party and all this. That's not a true patriot. A true patriot is a person that fights for this country and to keep this country the number one country in the world. And that's exactly what Alex did. He did not worry about his job. He worried about his country. And that's why he's a hero. That's why I love him. That's why I'm here today. I think the world of him.
Thank you. Also very strong. See,
he did his push-ups.
Unbelievable biceps, and his calf development is really extraordinary.
Yeah. If we were face to face, I would challenge you to an arm wrestling competition. Unfortunately, we're virtual.
Okay,
Listen,
but I mean, the other thing I should say is the only thing that is lacking, and I told Alex that, is his abs. He does not have a six-pack. And I think that he enjoyed his steaks maybe more than his sit-ups and stuff.
Listen,
You're
I don't even think he's 45 yet, so he's got time to develop those abs. And
absolutely his time. Are you kidding me?
Yeah.
As the saying goes, take care of your body before you take care of everyone else.
I think that's right. I think there's a there's a workout a session, or maybe even a workout video here on the back end. So we'll just keep that in mind.
Going back to the governor's point,
when we get together, we're going to work out together.
Yes, nice.
Let's sell that class. I will moderate that workout as well. I'm happy to do that.
We'll call it Strong of Mind, Strong of Body.
An immigrant story.
Yeah.
I want to get to the consequences, because they have been dire, of the sort of party over country mentality and the hacks that you just talked about, Governor, because it wasn't limited to just the impeachment. Of course, we had so many who were supporting the president, saying he's learned his lesson, this is a one-off. That definitely was not the case. But before we get to present day and sort of the consequences and the aftermath of that first impeachment, Alex, I do want to ask you something you reference in your book, and that is that your life today now consists of pre-impeachment and post-impeachment. And what the governor said is absolutely right. The history books will judge you kindly. You are an American hero. You can sleep well at night, but you did pay a price for doing the right thing. And I think many would be surprised and I think heartbroken even a few years ago to know what that price you did pay for doing the right thing. It wasn't just the president that let you down. It was your superiors. It was your bosses. It was people that were supposed to protect you were not there. And I wonder if you can talk about the sort of post-impeachment life you're experiencing now.
Well, first of all, I must comment on the awesome military career I had. I had just a unique series of opportunities, leading troops in various corners of the world, and having an impact on national security in a very outsized way. I had a very, very good run serving in Moscow, serving in the Pentagon, really having an impact in driving the thinking on facing and meeting the challenges, the most significant challenges this country faces, and all the way through the White House. And frankly, that's one of the reasons I wanted to stay on, is because I thought I could continue to contribute in that way. Life took a different turn, and I could have been knocked on my ass and kind of wallowed in self-pity, but that's not the way Vindmans are. Vindmans are very resilient. We're prepared to start over as many times as needed and continue to kind of bounce back and do good things. I'm still trying to figure out exactly what it is I want to do, but I've invested in some really kind of pretty amazing opportunities. I'm working on my doctorate in Johns Hopkins, at a think tank, lecturing. I have affiliations with both Johns Hopkins and UPenn. There are conversations with. I've had conversations with Yale. I've got an upcoming talk sometime in the fall with Stanford. There's all sorts of pretty interesting things. But frankly, I haven't quite decided exactly what it is I want to do, but I know the objectives I want to reach. I want to continue to contribute on national security. I want to continue to advocate for public servants, because those were the guardrails that saved this country in a moment of great danger. It was the people that refused to follow illegal orders. It was the police officers that held the line on January 6th. And I want to continue to advocate for them. I've make it a point to reach out to people that are attacked by the far right, kind of the proto-fascists in the media space or on the far right. And I also want to I'm laser focused on accountability, and those people that fell short, those people that did not live up to their oaths of office, those people that are two-faced and say one thing and do another. I'm looking at them, and I'm looking to help anybody that is looking to unseat them in power. And that's the kind of leadership we want. So you could see my thinking is moving forward, taking the next step, rather than the kind of the adversity piece, which is not negligible. My wife really hates it when I kind of understate the challenges and the difficulties that we've had. But I'm always focused on the future and how to move forward.
And you can connect to that through line. I mean, you do it yourself. It's natural because it's true. What you experienced, what you saw, what the country saw by elected officials choosing party, and I would even say president over country, and acting in a way that was only self-righteous for a short period of time, right? Just to avoid the president paying a higher cost. Directly to January 6th and the insurrection, you talk about in the book how you wondered if some of those Republicans who were defending the president during the impeachment 2 years ago feel any guilt about the pain that would come to this country, largely at the hands and leadership, of course, of President Trump, and that is the coronavirus and how we responded to that, which no country in the world would have estimated that the U.S. responded so poorly initially. And obviously January 6th. Governor, I was struck by one of the police officers who was testifying before Congress just last week, I believe. And he too was an immigrant, one of the officers who was trying to hold the line. And I had to choke back tears just listening to him say that he has never been more proud to be an immigrant to this country, defending the democracy here. And it made me think, knowing that we would have this conversation today, about that video that Alex referenced, that you released. I think it took many by surprise, and it was so powerful to hear those words from you as an immigrant yourself, warning about the consequences, the real life consequences of not upholding democracy. What made you put that video out?
Well, just sorry, because Lulu cannot stand it when I'm alone on the screen. Here,
I love this cameo.
Yeah.
Okay, Lulu, bye-bye. See you. Take it back outside. You cannot be in every shot. Well, first of all, let me just say that the reason why I did this video was because what was going on in America, I felt like that there was some similarities there and potential dangers that we have seen in the past. And I'm talking now about before the Second World War, how my father and people in Austria and in Germany and all over Europe were actually lied to by a regime that was very evil. And when you start lying to people, and if the nation experiences this kind of lies and deceits and cheating and corruption and all this kind of thing, it goes down a dangerous road, and it has to be stopped at all costs. And I think that I wanted to express that in that video, that I was concerned about that, and we don't want to repeat that kind of a history again. And this is why we have to do everything that we can to stop that, and not to go in that direction. And I think Alex was one of those heroic guys, and there were many others that fought that and stood up. And Nietzsche said that what does not kill you will make you stronger. And I think that the other side that tried to overthrow this country and to do those kind of illegal acts, have not succeeded because of people like Alex and others, and therefore we have protected our democracy. And as Nietzsche said, it will make us stronger. It will make this democracy stronger. And so there is it's really terrific of how strong our democracy is, and we have seen this now firsthand. And this is, like I said, this is why I compared it to that kind of a time period. And I think that when you're a foreigner, I think it gives you twice the pleasure, because I think that we came over here and we have seen firsthand how America is the number one country in the world, and how it's not just a saying that it is the land of opportunity, but I think all of us experienced it firsthand, how it is the land of opportunity. I mean, none of the stuff that I have accomplished in my life I would have been able to do in any other country. I mean, this country made it possible for me to become the greatest bodybuilder of all times. It enabled me to get into show business and to become a leading man in show business and one of the most successful actors for decades. It gave me the possibility to run for office and to become governor of the great state of California, which is the 5th largest economy in the world. I mean, it's all this kind of stuff, but we have the responsibility of protecting all of that, and we have to give back to this country. Foreigners cannot come over here and just abuse the country. We can use the system, but we have to give back more so than American-born individuals. And so this is why I always was into giving back and to make sure that this country stays strong. That's why I started working with Special Olympics to give something back and to become the international trainer for Special Olympics. That's why I started after-school programs here in America. This is why I became the chairman of the President's Council under President Bush Sr., and traveled through all 50 states to promote health and fitness and exercising. That's why I ran for governor and discontinued my huge wages and salaries that I got in show business, and didn't even take the money as governor, the salary that they offered. I left it there because there's other people that need it more than I need that money. And so all of this stuff, and that's why I'm involved in the environmental movement to protect and to heal this earth that is right now sick and overloaded with pollution. That 7 million people die every year because of pollution. So we have to stop that. So we immigrants have to give back over and over and over. This is our responsibility. And this is why I'm so happy when I sat there and I watched the testimony of Alex, to say this man is a foreigner, he's an immigrant, and he's protecting this democracy with 100% of his energy and his strength and leadership and all of this stuff. And so I was so proud of him to just watch him and become friends with him after that.
And Alex, you have become now friends with those heroes who were protecting the line there and holding down the line while others were defending the big lie from January 6th. I'm wondering what lessons you have learned, or what this experience has been like now that you have not only gone through an impeachment, but also sort of bore witness to an insurrection that, by the way, a large percentage of this country believes is being, overplayed in this country, that we're making it a bigger deal than it was. Some even calling it, tourists that were coming through Congress.
Yeah, there are two basic conclusions. First of all, for those folks that were under attack, whether it's Harry Dunn or Mike Fannin, I caution them to disregard the attacks they get from across the airwaves, from across the internet. Who cares about those people? Those are cowards. They're girly men that basically attack them from afar. Their network of friends, their supporters, the people that reach out to them, the people that meet them in the streets, the ones that congratulate them on being heroes, those are the ones that you should pay attention to. Frankly, I've received a lot of love from America on a face-to-face basis, and at the same time have been attacked on social media. But that's, you could see the imbalance there. Why one matters, another one could be completely discounted. My daughter's favorite musician, Taylor Swift, says, you say it in the street, it's a knockout. You say it in a tweet, it's a cop-out. So, I have those lyrics in my head a little bit. But that's what I counseled them to disregard those and then offered kind of a hand of friendship and support for folks. And it's not just these folks. It's folks that were testified against Eddie Gallagher, the criminal SEAL that was pardoned by the president, all sorts of people. The other thing is my kind of martial instinct to punch back and fight. And I'm on the offensive against the Tucker Carlsons, the far right media, the neo-fascists. I mean, it sounds like a crazy word to use, but if you look at the textbook definition of fascism, it's ultra right, ultra nationalism, desire to put strict social controls, limit freedoms. It is, in fact, what some of these folks are calling for. In the case of Tucker Carlson, he actually went to visit Viktor Orban, an authoritarian leader in Hungary, and touted that system versus the amazing opportunities and the wonderful system we have in this country. So the other thing I do is I punch back. I couldn't do it in uniform, strangely enough, because I didn't have the ability to speak for myself. But now that I left service, recognizing that my position was no longer tenable, now I could punch back. I'll criticize and I'll call them on their absolute nonsense and hatred of America. Is what they espouse. They prey on fears. They prey on iniquities. I know last time the governor and I met, we talked about inequality and what that kind of engenders with a population that looks at that falls back on grievances. And we talked about some of these difficult issues, but these are the things that these parasites feed on to increase their own power, to increase their own wealth, to profit. And I'm not going to sit back and let these folks get away with it. With all kind of my limited means, I'll expose them for who they are. And that's one of the things. Those are the two real things I've gotten out of this experience.
Well, with all due respect, I would argue your wife punches back even more than you do. So, she does it well. She does it well, and it's a natural.
Yeah.
It's a natural talent for her. She speaks truth to power. Governor, let me ask you about that to follow up on, given your background, what you thought when you saw that the nation's most watched cable news host on the most watched network, which the majority of viewers, or I would say it's fair to say the majority of viewers happen to be Republican, spent a week in Hungary and promoting Viktor Orban and his policies. I mean, it sort of blew my mind, but it's hard to say something blows my mind at this point. I'm just wondering, given your experiences, given that the majority of Americans probably don't even know who Viktor Orban really is or what he's done in Hungary, what did you make of that?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to go into those kind of things. I mean, people can endorse anyone they want. They can run for any office that they want. I think for me to comment on it is not going to bring America together. I think that the thing that I want to focus on is the subject that we're talking about, which is how do we make America stay great? And the thing that I have been talking about for quite some time now is we have to come together as a nation, not only just to defend democracy, but also how do we make this country and stay number one in the future. The way we can do that is by coming together. We got to go and stop the villainizing the other side. We cannot be a team. When you think about a basketball team or when you think about a football team, what makes the team win is if they're together and if they communicate together and they're going in the same direction. And what we have been doing lately here is in America, it's the Republicans fighting Democrats, blacks fighting whites, Mexicans fighting Asians, Asians fighting everything, and men against women, women against men, and all of this kind of stuff. I don't think this is going to bring the nation together. What we have to do is we have to talk about how do we come together and work together, because we all have a common interest, and this is to keep this country number one. And this is why I just say tolerance, inclusion, and negotiations and compromise. Those are the kind of things that I always have worked towards. And I was able to be able, as a Republican governor, for instance, to work in a state that has a majority of Democratic legislators. We were able to work together and to carve out certain things like environmental issues and infrastructure issues and healthcare issues and education issues and so on. We were able to work together. There were some other things that we couldn't work together, like budget issues, that the other side wanted to spend more money, always money that we didn't have. And, being a conservative, I wanted to, of course, only try to spend the money that we do have. And and those things we didn't get along. But in other things we did get along. So we made a real effort. Democrats and Republicans alike made an effort to make decisions that was best for the state of California. And we were very happy to say that, the state is without any doubt the most successful state in the union, with the number one economy in California because of that, of them both working together. And we're the fifth largest economy in the world, and we are number one in so many different areas. So I think those are the issues America needs to work together, because there are a lot of challenges. If it is immigration reform, if it is healthcare reform, if it is building the infrastructure and, kind of protecting the environment, having an energy policy that is sound in the future, and all of those kind of issues, what our policy should be to be more competitive internationally and so on. How do we go in that direction? So, there's so many things to address that I think those are the really important issues. So I always promote, let's come together. We can have different point of views, but we must come together and make decisions together in order to really keep this the number one nation in the world.
Yeah, and I know.
Bianca, can I make a comment on this one? Because this is something I've spent a lot of time thinking about, and I completely understand and take the governor's point. I am also laser focused on unity. I thought that in a way I had this wishful thinking about after there was a change in administration and Biden came to power, that we would be able to advance the President Biden's agenda of unifying, addressing kind of common issues. But frankly, I think that there is a missing component with accountability at the moment, and there just has not been enough done to expose the wrongdoing of the previous administration. It's not to target them or to, basically to punish them. It's to understand what kind of weaknesses there are in the system, so we could be stronger and harder for the next time we face challenges. And I think, when I talk about folks, I explicitly didn't say Republicans or something like that, because it's not a Republican Democratic question for me. The Republican Party has added just as much to this country as the Democratic Party at various points. It's less about that. It's about kind of fringe radical elements, potentially on both sides, frankly, that are undermining this country and driving us apart instead of bringing us together. So I'm with you, Governor, about figuring out ways to bring this country together. I think that's one of the reasons that Renew Democracy Initiative has kind of looked to your organization for some leadership. But there's also an effort to accountability, just to make sure that we understand where the weaknesses are and can fix those.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I think that we should not forget that we are by far the best country in the world. Absolutely. With all of our illnesses.
We are.
We have our hiccups, We have our, big problems, big issues to overcome in all of this. But, whenever I go overseas, I tell you that the amount of people that come up to me and that ask me to help them to get to the United States is staggering. That has never changed. It was the same 20 years ago, 50 years ago, and today it's the same thing. People coming up to me and said, please, can you help me? I can't get a visa. I want to come to America, and I want to go and then live over there and all this stuff. So this is still the most desirable place in the world by far. And I think it's important to know. And I also want to just let you know that even though people thought, oh, my God, what is happening to America when this happened on January 6th? I came over here in 1968 when we had, that was the year when Bobby Kennedy was shot. This was the year when they had the huge protests at the Democratic Convention in Chicago, where people were clubbed to death by the police, and there was this kind of like unbelievable uproar there and madness, the hippie age, the Vietnam War. Then after that, it was followed by Watergate, which was a huge disaster for America. And it went on and on and on. So we have gone through some wild times in America. And America always came out, like I said, with the Nietzsche thing, we always came out stronger in the end. And I think we're going to come out stronger with this huge, thing that happened there on January 6th. They're trying to overthrow the government and trying to lie about the election. I mean, we all know over and over it was proven that Biden is our president. He won the large majority of the votes. There was no cheating going on there. There was no corruption there at all. And I think that there's still the deniers out there of that. And they're just blind. And like I said, those are people that just want to get reelected. They don't care about the country. And I think this is the important issue here. But we're going to move forward as a country. And I would like to just not to kind of, get off what I'm saying, but I just would like to have Alex talk a little bit about your work with Kasparov, because I think it's fascinating that you guys are working. And the reason why I mention Kasparov is because he's one of my chess heroes.
Mine too.
I played chess with him, and he was kind enough to stop the game before he destroyed me. I mean, just so he doesn't hurt my ego.
Yeah.
But I mean, this is so great that you guys are working together. Again, two immigrants working together to keep this democracy really strong in America. You want to talk just a little bit about that, Alex?
Sure, of course. It's interesting how we share a broader perspective. Sometimes that Americans just don't necessarily have. Not everybody gets the opportunity to travel overseas to see the hardships and how much more challenging life is elsewhere. I think this group here, Gary, has that a breadth of experience and understands the unique opportunities in this country. And we're trying to keep this country strong. In his case, he wants to keep the country strong internally, but also as a leader in the world, leading democracies, leading kind of trying to advance prosperity advance prosperity for humanity. That only a role that the United States could fill, frankly, as a leading nation. And with the Renew Democracy Initiative, we've had a number of initiatives. I mentioned what does democracy mean to me. We have a project in the works with CNN. I'm not sure if it's announced yet. But it's talking about dissidents and the difficulties that dissidents in other corners of the world face, and a little bit of an insight into the dangers the U.S. has at the moment with regards to fringe elements, mainly on the right now, the far right, that are looking to kind of double down on Trump and Trumpism. So we're looking at those types of projects. We're looking at, frankly, a whole host of different ideas to address fundamental issues that affect this country and could leave this country in a position of leadership. And I'm very proud to be on the board of the Renew Democracy Initiative and work with Governor Schwarzenegger and all sorts of other organizations to advance our common interest to keep this country great, keep this country strong.
It's amazing, and it's incredible work that Kasparov has done, sort of in the second half of his career in life. Right, first you become chess champion of the world, and then you go becoming a crusader for democracy around the world. The high bar there for someone to top. Governor, one part of this in upholding democracy is shooting down misinformation and lies. And I know what's important to you as public service, whether you're still in office or not, and you're using your voice to fight disinformation right now. And I was really struck by a Facebook post that I think you put up just earlier this week about all of the misinformation surrounding COVID and the vaccines, and an issue we're once again battling in this country, where we're seeing an increased number of people hospitalized. Our frontline workers are once again having to exhaust themselves in saving lives, and we have so many who refuse to get a vaccine. I just want to read a portion of what you wrote. You said, Dr. Fauci and all the virologists and epidemiologists and doctors have studied diseases and vaccines for their entire lives. So I listened to them, and I urge you to do the same. None of us are going to learn more than them by watching a few hours of videos. It's simple. If your house is on fire, you don't go on YouTube, you call the damn fire department. If you have a heart attack, you don't check your Facebook group, you call an ambulance. If 9 doctors tell you you have cancer and need to treat it or you will die, and 1 doctor says the cancer will disappear, you should always side with the 9. What inspired you to finally publicly make a statement like this, which is 1,000% accurate?
Well, first of all, you have to understand that as soon as the virus happened, and we have finally more and more people from government have, kind of acknowledged the fact that there is a virus. And they were kind of very late, may I remind you, in warning the people. But finally, when they did warn us and it did spread, and we had to kind of cancel our Arnold's Classic Sports and Fitness Festival in Columbus, and we were only allowed to have a limited crowd last March, meaning a year and a half ago. That's when I realized that we all have to now come together on this thing. And so I started putting posts out there about washing your hands regularly and wearing a mask and to do social distancing and to follow the kind of rules that the experts put out there and to face the fact that this is here and this is going to grow and it's going to expand and it's going to really affect a lot of people's lives. And so now, cut year and a half later, we are still in a mess. And, there's still people that live in denials. There's still people that don't believe in masks. There's still people out there that say, well, we don't have to do social distancing and all this kind of stuff. And I just think that people ought to be reminded over and over that the experts are saying that we have to wear masks, especially when you go indoor. The experts are saying we still should wash our hands regularly. We should still do social distancing, especially now with this the comeback of the virus, which is the 4th round now, that we have to really go and work together on that. And there is misinformation out there. And my point of it was basically, look, I'm an expert on how to build a bicep. And so therefore, I know exactly what I'm talking about. I've studied this issue. I know exactly how to create this peak and all this stuff. There's no one that knows more about a bicep than I do because I studied this issue for 50 years. And the same is also with the virus. There are people out there that are experts that study this year after year after year, and that are experienced, like Dr. Fauci, that has been at this, probably for his entire life. I mean, why would you not believe someone like that? So, and there's so many other scientists out there and experts on this subject. So I believe them and I follow them very carefully. And of course, sometimes things are happening that are unexpected. So then you have to make the adjustments and all that. But I think people should know there is a virus here. It kills people. And the only way we prevent it is to get vaccinated, to wear masks, to do social distancing, washing your hands all the time, and not just to think about, well, my freedom is being kind of disturbed here. No, screw your freedom. Because with freedom comes obligations and kind of responsibilities. We cannot just say, I have the right to do X, Y, and Z. When you affect other people, that is when it gets serious. It's like no different than a traffic light. We put a traffic light at an intersection so someone doesn't kill someone else by accident. So this is why we have a traffic light. You cannot say, no one is going to tell me that I'm going to stop here, that I have to stop at this traffic light here. I'm going to go right through it. Yeah, then you kill someone else, and then it is your doing. So this is the same thing with the virus. You cannot go and not put a mask on because when you breathe, you can infect someone else, and you can infect someone that then gets sick and may die. So this is why I think we all have to work together on this. The only way we can lick this virus is, again, if we do like I suggested earlier about politics, we have to come together rather than fighting and always just saying, this, according to my principles, this is a free country and I'm going to have the freedom to wear no mask. Yeah, you have the freedom to wear no mask, but you know something, you're a schmuck for not wearing a mask because you're not supposed to protect your fellow members around you. It's just that simple. So this is the way I feel about it. And that's why I am out there and talking about it and tweeting out about it and doing videos and all this kind of stuff, because I want people to understand. I don't want to villainize anyone here, but I just want to tell everyone, let's work together and let's stop fighting, because there is a virus and it's better to get vaccinated and to wear a mask.
That point just prompted me to a quote that I found of yours that I think is apt for what you just described. And you said, I operate with the European mind, and I also operate with an American mind. That's why no one can figure me out. It has nothing to do with Republican versus Democrat. I never pay attention to any of this political stuff, period, because I think that both are full of, I believe you said, crap. So how does that message transcend? You've got a powerful voice. You're a former publicly elected official. I would argue your voice is just as powerful in many ways because you have such a big social media platform. How do we get voices like yours to amplify the truth as opposed to some of the other garbage that's on social media right now?
Well, first of all, what you talked about was that because I'm a foreigner, because I'm born in Austria, made in America, okay? Because of that, I have on one side the Austrian sitting there, and on the other side, the American Arnold sitting there. And they're arguing all the time, may I remind you, all the time about every issue, because I grew up, like, for instance, with, universal health care. So, of course, when I became governor, I promoted and tried to bring everyone together, and we were almost successful to create universal health care in California. And then, of course, there were the Republicans that said, well, what's the matter with him? He must have been hanging out with Teddy Kennedy too much, with those Kennedys, because he's married to a Kennedy. So he's becoming more and more Democrat. He's not really a Republican. It had nothing to do with the Democratic Party. It had only to do with that I grew up with a healthcare system where everyone was insured. And I liked that. And I felt like the fifth largest economy in the world, the richest state in the union, should have universal health care where everyone is insured. Let's figure it out. It had nothing to do with Democrats versus Republicans. Why does one party have to carve out anything for themselves? This is common sense that is good for all people, not just for Democrats or Republicans. It's the same thing with the environment. There is no Democratic air. There is no Republican air. There is no Democratic water. There's no Republican water. We all drink the same water. We all breathe the same air. So let's stop this nonsense, this kind of like political dialogue. This is a Republican principle. This is a Democratic principle. It's all nonsense. The thing is that we have an obligation to go and to really solve those problems as they come along. So we should have healthcare for everybody in America. We should go and get rid of pollution as quickly as possible and not argue, is there climate change or not climate change? It has nothing to do with that at all. It has to do with we got to get rid of pollution, like Ronald Reagan. He was a great Republican, but he created the Air Resources Board in California that enables us to go and to reduce our greenhouse gases. And California was the only state in the union that reduced its greenhouse gases by 25% within a 10-year period. And at the same time, even though they say this is going to hurt the economy, we are number one economically. And our increase in GDP goes up faster than in any other state, and the second largest after China. So it just shows you that you can protect the environment and the economy. So those are the kind of things. It's common sense stuff that I'm talking about. And I'm very fortunate, I think that both of you are, that we come from another place and we see things in different ways. And therefore, I think it enriches you and it helps you with your decision making.
Yeah, and just in the final few moments here, I just want to piggyback on that point, because, you could talk about the economy all you want. Without a planet, you don't have any concerns about an economy. So we're all in this together, especially after that devastating UN report yesterday on climate change. Just the last few minutes, Alex, I do want to ask you something else about your background, because especially as a Soviet immigrant like we both are, what really stood out about your story is that not just you, not just one of your brothers, but all of your brothers just gave back to this country by serving in the military, voluntarily, obviously. We're fortunate to have a voluntary military here. What was it that drove all of you to give back to your country in that way?
I definitely want to answer that question, but first, I'll tell you, it's just so wonderful listening to Governor Schwarzenegger speak with the hope in his voice, something that I think all of us share, and a love of country, and looking for ways to make this country better, to make the lives of American citizens better, bring people together. I mean, honestly, it's a beautiful thing to hear, and we definitely need more of those kinds of messages and more people speaking out with a love of country, not a kind of a hatred or a rancor or something that's focused on the shortcomings which exist, but that we have always kind of sought to overcome and made progress on. So it's great kind of hearing this, and maybe there's something to be said about kind of maybe the the Constitution needs a relook, and if immigrants are here for 40 years or more, maybe we should have eligibility for higher office also. But to answer your question about...
Let me just say, I'm an only child, and the argument I always made to my parents was it wouldn't be fair if they had another sibling in America, because that sibling could be president, I couldn't, and it's not fair. So I'm all for that constitutional amendment.
That's right. Even Putin has introduced an amendment. I think it's if you're a Russian citizen for 25 years or more, you're eligible to run for presidency. Now, of course, that things don't work that way in Russia. But
if your name is Putin, yeah.
Yes, that's right. But I think there is something to be said about all of my brothers and I wanting to give back to this country. It was an instinctual feel. Now, we didn't know that was going to turn into a kind of a lifelong passion, a lifelong career. But we knew we wanted to give back. We wanted to serve this country. And at one point or another, all of us had the opportunity to make this decision, and every single one of us chose to contribute in one way or another. My older brother kind of broke the ground for us, because he started out in ROTC. He enlisted and was a Special Forces reservist when they still had that kind of specialty. And we needed a way to get our energy out. In the book, I talk about how we were kind of rascals growing up. Not particularly focused, troublemakers, getting into fights and all that kind of stuff. And we needed a way to get our energy out. I wish it was through bodybuilding when we were that young, but we didn't. We should have tried that. But once we started our military service, it became clear that this is a way that we could both contribute to ourselves, to the nation, but also to improving ourselves. I mean, I think it's clear when you read the book how much I benefited from my military service, how much I learned, how much I grew as a human being, how much I grew, a better husband, father, leader, and I was able to do that through public service. So oftentimes when I talk about, what lessons I could draw is look at service. Look at service as a way to do something that's focused externally, bigger than yourself, because it helps you to give back to the community, but it also helps you grow as an individual. And in doing this, you start to figure out what are the right things to do, how to overcome challenges, and one day you'll be faced with, these tremendous challenges. I was faced with one, and I think my decades of public service, my upbringing, my moral compass allowed me to kind of navigate it in a way that I felt was honorable, in a way that I could live with. So I encourage people to look at service, local, federal, state, whatever the case it might be, and you'll get something out of it.
And Governor, final question to you, and it applies to Alex, because the question he gets now is what's next for you? And public service comes in many forms. He's already given back so much to this country, as have you, Governor. What advice do you have now on the record for Alex? And could we see a potential elected official there? There's a vacancy coming up soon, as we know, breaking news in New York State Governor's office. But that may be a few steps down the road. But what advice do you have for Alex now?
Well, I think that he has shown tremendous leadership. And I think that I agree with everything he said about the military. I was only in Austria for 1 year in the military. I went with the age of 18 voluntarily. And I tell you something, that the things that I learned that 1 year, putting together your clothes, ironing your shirt, learning how to sew on a button, how to iron and press the pants, how to get up at 5 in the morning and how to go for your runs and how to go and handle weapons, how to drive an M47 American patent tank and all those kind of things. I mean, and it was such tough kind of a year when you go through this basic training and all this stuff, that after that, nothing is tough anymore. Everything is then easy after that. So I think the discipline and the stuff, the camaraderie and everything that you learn in the military is priceless. I mean, I tell you, I just am so happy that I was able to go and be in the military for 1 year and get the kind of training that I did. Now imagine you multiply that with the amount of years that Alex has been in the military. It's unbelievable. So, I don't know what Alex's vision is. I don't know what his dreams are. I don't know what he sees in front of him in the future. So that is the important thing, is what is his dream? What does he want to do? So for me, I can make recommendations. It doesn't matter what he does. He will be successful. That I can guarantee you. So it can be public service. It may be getting in the private sector. It may be writing more books or be a commentator on television. Whatever it is, I think he will be able to do it because he knows how to focus on things and he knows how to follow through and how to follow a certain program. But it will always entail something of giving something back to this country. That I can guarantee you.
And I misspoke, Governor. If I can just ask you one more question, because you're the voice of reason here, and I hear this often from my dad. On a bad day, when I feel that this country's not moving in the right direction, he puts things into perspective and says this is the best country in the world and things will resolve itself, sort of the thesis from this conversation today. But my question to you is, do you think an immigrant who came here with just a few dollars, like you and Alex and my family a few decades ago, you a decade ahead of Alex, and myself, do you think they could still have the same opportunities? Does this country still offer the same opportunities that you and my family and Alex in all our own separate ways were able to achieve so quickly?
Without any doubt. I mean, and the reason why I'm saying this so quickly is because I just saw a guy down in the gym, at Gold's Gym. He comes up to me and I see him all the time training people. He's a trainer and he's from Africa. And he has been here now for a little bit more than a year and a half or so. And the guy is driving, coming up with the car with a Corvette. And so I said to him, I said, you have a beautiful car there. He says, well, I'm working my ass off. I said, how many people do you train every day? He says, 16 people a day. I said, are you working 16 hours a day? He says, yes, 16 hours a day. I said, how much do you charge per hour? $100 an hour. Now, I don't have to tell you not the rest of the story, right? This guy makes $1,600 a day. A day. He has been here for a year and a half, a little bit more than a year and a half. So there is opportunities if you're willing to work hard. Like one of my principles of 6 principles of success is work your ass off. Okay, don't go and look for shortcuts or anything like this. Work, work, work. The day is 24 hours. Let's go and put as much work in. This guy does it. 16 hours a day. That's why he's making $1,600 a day. And this is why he's driving a Corvette. And he has 2 other cars that he was bragging about to me and all this kind of stuff. So I just tell you, there is still the opportunities out there. This is the only place where you can do something like that. And this is why I say to people, I said, we are the best. The key thing now is how do we stay as America internationally competitive? Because things change all the time. You know, we are now in the national stage, and then an international competition. It used to be just America, but now it's a world kind of economy, and we got to be competitive about that. And there are certain things that we need to do to stay competitive internationally. And this is why I say it is so important for Democrats and Republicans to come together in Washington and to start working on those kind of issues, because the other side, if it's China or if it's India or any of those other countries, they're not asleep. They move forward very aggressively in the same thing we have to do in order to stay competitive.
And lastly, before we end, because I don't know how to top those words of encouragement, Alex, any final words from you?
I think for me, it's like I said a couple of times before, it's about the future and how I guess for me personally, how I could continue to contribute and give back on whether it's national security, advocating for public service, or for accountability to make this country stronger. and in those pursuits, also improving my own, I guess, improving myself, making life more comfortable for my daughter. That's I guess what I'm focused on.
Well, you have a lifetime ahead of you for your next chapter. I can't wait to see what you do. And we are so proud of you. Thank you so much for your service. And as the governor said at the beginning, this is about promotion. This is a business. And this is about getting people to buy your book because it is an important story. It's a fascinating one. It's an immigrant story. It's an Only in America story. And you amplify it by the title, Here Right Matters. Thank you so much, Governor. Thank you so much, Lieutenant Colonel Alex Vindman. I appreciate moderating this conversation. It's been fascinating.
Thank you.
Dion, you did a fantastic job.
Yes.
Thank you. I'm going to go work out now, Governor.
You're so talented.
Yeah.
It is great to talk to both of you. Thank you very much, and good luck with your book. I'm telling you, it's going to be #1. It's going to be read all over the world. It's going to be successful, and write some more books about that subject, okay?
All right.
Hasta la vista,
Hasta.
babies.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.